David Shulkin, our secretary, has done a great job. The VA was a mess. So many parts of our country. Hey, they left me with North Korea. They left me with a mess in the Middle East. They left me with Afghanistan, which was a disaster. We'll make a lot of progress in Afghanistan, just like we have with getting ISIS out of Iraq, getting ISIS out of Syria, knocking the hell out of them. They left me with a mess. But we're cleaning up the mess. We're cleaning it up. And with time, we'll have it spinning like a top. For decades, veterans have asked for a law to hold corrupt and incompetent employees at the VA accountable. But it never happened. Then we got it done. This piece of legislation, for decades, they've wanted. You couldn't fire anybody at the VA if they were sadists, if they were horrible people, if they wouldn't show up to work. You couldn't fire anybody. Now, we look at them, they're no good. We say, you're fired, get out of here. And I must tell you, I can't believe that Arnold Schwarzenegger bombed so badly on The Apprentice. My poor, beautiful show. It was so successful. We get a big movie star and he can't pull it off. We are respecting Americans' heroes and rebuilding America's standing. All over the world, they're respecting us again. When I came into office, we inherited all of these problems all around the globe, years of America projecting weakness, not going over the red line. If we went over the red line, you wouldn't have had Russia and Iran going into Syria. But you know what? He said, you're never going to do it. Don't ever violate the red line. They violated the red line. He did nothing. So Russia went in and Iran went in. But you know what? We had 59 missiles, and they used gas. And we said, you can't do that. And we hit our great military from ships 700 miles away. 59 missiles and 59 perfect hits. And we've stopped apologizing for America, and we have started defending the reputation of the United States, finally. To prevent Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon, I recently declined to certify the disaster known as the Iran nuclear deal, a total disaster. How about that deal? How about that deal? We give them $150 billion, right? We give them $150 billion. But here's the thing. Smaller money, but think of this. We give them $1.8 billion in cash. I mean, like green. In fact, it was so much cash that they had to go to other countries also because we didn't have enough cash in Washington, D.C. They loaded up planes with cash. Can you believe the presidency has that kind of power? I don't want to ever try it. No, but can you believe that the presidency has the power to send bushel loads of cash to Iran, probably for hostages, probably $1.8 billion, probably for hostages. So sad. We don't do that. We don't do that anymore. As part of a campaign of maximum pressure on the vile dictatorship of North Korea, we have imposed the toughest ever sanctions passed by the United Nations Security Council, and we have a lot of other sanctions. But, you know, I don't know that sanctions are going to work with him. We got to give it a shot. You know, we'll see. Who knows? I just tell you, folks, you're in good hands. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. And I've strengthened our relationships with America's allies and asked other NATO members to pay their fair share. And now the money is pouring in. The money is pouring in. Remember, I went to NATO a year ago? And these fake people back here, they were saying Donald Trump's performance at NATO was unacceptable. You know why? You know why they said it? Because I told the people of NATO, standing right behind me while they were standing behind me, they've been delinquent. They haven't been paying. I said, you got to pay. You got to pay. You got to pay. And now they've taken in because of that. And I guess I implied if you don't pay, we're out of there, right? And I took more heat from the press. They said Donald Trump was rude to our allies. Well, they're rude to us when they don't pay. Right? They're rude to us. So we'll have a nation that doesn't pay. Then the nation gets frisky with whoever. Russia. So we have a nation doesn't pay. The nation gets aggressive. We end up in World War III for somebody that doesn't even pay. You think they think we're geniuses? So here's what's happened. In the last short period of time, Stoltenberg, who's the head of NATO, he's my biggest fan in the whole world because he couldn't get anybody to pay. We've taken in $11 billion extra, and going into 2020 or 2021, we will have taken in $33 billion extra, and they aren't even doing what they should be doing, just so you understand. It's terrible, the way our country has been disrespected, but we will be disrespected no longer, okay? Now, tomorrow morning, you'll see from these fakers back there, Donald Trump again disrespects NATO. I don't disrespect NATO. I think NATO's wonderful. But you know what? We're paying for 80% of NATO. Could be. It's unsustainable. So I said to Angela, send a little of that cash flow our way. And she said, but Donald, because we're protecting them. We have 40,000 soldiers in Germany. Nobody even knows that. I said, Angela, let us have some. She said, Donald, the German people wouldn't be happy with that. I said, well, you know what? The American people aren't happy with the way we have it now. Okay? The American people aren't happy. And at home, we're restoring the rule of law. We're interpreting the Constitution as written, defending the Second Amendment. You'll keep your guns. And protecting religious liberty. We are protecting religious liberty. And we're getting rid of the Johnson Amendment. We've stopped the government's attacks on our Judeo-Christian values. Because we know that families and churches, not government officials, know best how to create a strong and loving community. We know that. Getting rid of the Johnson Amendment, study that up. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. A lot of people are very, very happy about that. We know that parents, not bureaucrats, know best how to raise their children and to nurture their children. And above all else, we know this. America doesn't worship government. We worship God. All of us here tonight are united by the same values. We love our country, and we are proud of our history. We are so proud of this country. We honor our heritage, and we treasure our freedom. We support our incredible men and women of law enforcement. We believe the United States military is the greatest force for justice in the history of the world, and we are going to take care of it, and we are going to properly fund it, and we are going to have the finest weapons, because when we do all of that, we are much, much safer. And far less likely to have to use them. It's amazing how that works, isn't it? We believe that every American should stand for the national anthem. And we proudly pledge allegiance to one nation under God. Our rights come from our Creator, and no earthly force can ever take those rights away, and they never will. That is why my administration is taking power back from global bureaucrats and returning that power back to the American people. And you see it all the time. You see it economically, you see it at the church, you see it in every different way. We don't sing a global anthem. Our troops don't wear a foreign uniform. And we will never surrender our rights to international tribunals. We won't do that. We proudly sing the Star-Spangled Banner. Our brave troops fight and die for the red, white, and blue. And we protect and preserve the American Constitution that we cherish. I've said it so often that my job is not to be president of the world. My job is to be president of the United States of America. Yet there are powerful forces in Washington trying to sabotage our movement. These are bad people. These are very, very bad and evil people. They know who they are. These are the people who made their money, their names, their careers, their power off the corrupt and broken system, and they liked it the other way. So they will do anything at any time, and they'll never stop. But you know what? We're stopping them. You're seeing that right now. You're seeing that right now. We're stopping them. It's corrupt, it's rigged, and we're stopping them. They will lie and leak and smear because they don't want to accept the results of an election where we won by a landslide. Do you remember? There is no way for Donald Trump to get 270. We heard that for week after week. What they're doing is the fake news. It's called suppression. Just like they give the fake polls. I call it fake news, fake polls. A poll came out today on CNN. Such a fake. A poll came out. They'll have to apologize for that one. Another one came out that was through the roof, but it wasn't on CNN. But I will tell you, look, we need honesty. We need some love in the country. I'd love to bring both sides together if that's possible. There's a lot of hatred out there, but I would love to be able to bring both sides together. But remember this, the same failed voices in Washington who opposed our movement right from the beginning are the same people who have undermined the credibility of our government institutions. They're the same ones who gave us one terrible trade deal after another. and one foreign policy blunder and disaster after another with no accountability and no apology. The Washington insiders who oppose our movement are the same people who sacrificed our sovereignty, our wealth, our borders. Look at our country. We owe $20 trillion. Think of it. We have spent, as of 2 months ago, almost $7 trillion in the Middle East. And you know what we have? We have nothing. It's worse than it was 17 years ago when they started. These are the people that fight us. And if I want to fix up the roads in this country, they say, oh, well, we don't want to spend money for that. It's a tiny fraction. We could have, with that $7 trillion, not billion, $7 trillion, we could have rebuilt our country 3 times over. They've had their chance at running this country and they failed. So I think I speak for everyone here tonight, and I appreciate you being here, especially in numbers where you can't even get into the corners. When I proudly say, you know the beautiful thing? I was telling some of my friends backstage, the amazing thing about this, and all the people that couldn't get in, when an election is over, they tell me, what do I know? I've been a politician for a little more than 2 years. So what do I know? Although I'm doing a good job, I guess, right? I'm president. I'm president. But it's sort of incredible. You look at everybody, you see the love in the room, and you see what's going on with everything. And you say to yourself, this is truly a country that respects. They say that when you don't have an election, the election's over. There's no competition, there's no nothing, although we always have the deep seats inside. But it's over. They say you can't draw a crowd. In other words, when an election ends, you can't draw flies. They say, look at this place. Look at this place. I'll never forget on the trail I'd go, we'd have 20,000, 25,000. We went to Mobile, Alabama. We had 49,000 people. We went to Michigan the night of the election. I got there, started speaking at 12:30 in the evening. That means it was already election day. We had 32,000 people there. Michigan hadn't been won in many, many years by a Republican. Hillary Clinton went there in an emergency because she was told that day that she was doing badly in Michigan. She went there. She had a crowd of like 600 people. I had 32,000 people at 1 o'clock in the morning. I said, why are we not going to win? Why are we not going to win? And we won. We went to Wisconsin. Hasn't been won in many, many years. You remember that? We went to Wisconsin. Hadn't been won in many, many years. She decided not to go. Thank you very much, Hillary. I guess the Russians advised her not to go. You know, the guy. But she decided not to go. And her husband supposedly said, you better go to Wisconsin. You better go to Michigan. I don't like what I'm seeing. I was in Michigan, and I was driving down the street, and they have a Trump-Pence sign on every single lawn all the way to the arena. You better go there. And she said, no, 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 my bunch of dummies, a bunch of dummies. You know, I don't get credit for one thing. It always bothered me. I spent a tiny fraction of what she spent and we won. You know, in the old days, if you spend less and you win, that's a good thing. Over here, you don't get any credit for it. We spent 25 or 30%. She was at, what number? 2.2 billion, I understand. 2.2 billion. Do you think those consultants made a couple of bucks on that election? Didn't she spend 12.4 million on a dossier that was a total phony, right? 12.4 million? Boy. So we spent a tiny fraction, think of it, a tiny fraction of the money, and we won. But we won because of people like you. Because of people like you. And I'll tell you what, if the Democrats had won that election, instead of being up 39 points in your 401ks, you'd be down 50% from Election Day, I'm telling you, because it was ready to go down the tubes. I will tell you that. Thank you, man. So we don't need the advice from the Washington swamp. We need to drain the swamp, and we're going to do it, and we are doing it. That's why I don't really care about all the bitter attacks, all the phony stuff going on. Big media, special interests, phonies all. They're not here to protect you. They are only here to preserve and to protect themselves. And you're finding that out. I had a great life before I did this. Oh, think of where I'd be right now if I didn't do this. I'd be very happy, believe me. But I wanted to do it, and I wanted to give back, and I saw what was happening, and I've always been good at doing the money thing. I saw what was happening to our country, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good. I took this job on behalf of the forgotten men and women of our country. But guess what? They are forgotten no more. No more. People came out of areas, you know, they didn't think you existed. You know that, right? Remember? And you remember the word deplorable? How brilliant was that? I was watching her with that speech, and she was reading a teleprompter yet. And she said, deplorables. And I said, huh. That's not nice. She's talking about a lot of people. Little did I know I was right. That thing blew up. That was one of the reasons she lost. And now we're all proud deplorables. We're proud deplorables. Very proud. Your voice will never, ever be ignored again. They're all going to be coming after you for every election from now on in this country. You will never be ignored again. Your dreams are my dreams. Your hopes are my hopes. And your future is what I'm fighting for each and every day. We're just getting started. We're on the verge of passing that wonderful, beautiful tax cut. It's the biggest in the history of our country. It doubles the amount of income taxed at the rate of 0. It lowers tax rate. It expands the child, you know that, the child tax credit so broadly. It provides relief from the estate tax, also known as the death tax. It cuts small business taxes. It reduces the corporate rate, very importantly, from 35%, which is the highest in the industrialized world, all the way down to 20%. You're going to have new companies coming in. You're going to have jobs, jobs, jobs. And it brings corporate money from overseas back where it belongs. And we're talking about possibly in excess of $4 trillion that we can finally bring back. The typical family of 4 earning $75,000 will see an income tax cut of up to $2,000, cutting their tax bill in half. People don't know it, and they don't want to report it. These people don't want to report it. Our business tax cut is expected to raise annual income for the typical household by more than $4,000. They don't want to tell you that. They don't want to tell you that. Fake news. Our plan means more companies will move to America, stay in America, and hire in America. We want every American to know the dignity of work, the pride of a paycheck, and the satisfaction of a job well done. The Democrats in Washington want to grow our welfare rolls that you're going to pay for. They want to grow all sorts of things that you don't want to even think about. I want to grow our employment rolls with great jobs, well-paying jobs, jobs of dignity, jobs where people love waking up in the morning and going to work, and that's happening. So we're going to lift our people from welfare to work, from dependence to independence, and from poverty to prosperity. We will restore hope to our struggling rural communities and to our inner cities where we're making progress. We're making progress. We will build new roads and bridges and tunnels and highways all throughout our land. Factories will come roaring back to life. New works of iron and steel will be forged from fire and from spark and from our country. And they will be made with American muscle, American hands, and most importantly, American heart. And these creations will be branded with a very simple but very beautiful phrase, made in the USA. We have it in our power to build this future together. A future of patriotism, prosperity, and pride. We all share one home and one glorious destiny. And whether we are young or old, I feel very young. Do you feel young? I feel young. Whether we are from the city or the country, and whether we are black or brown or white, you've heard it before, we all bleed the same red blood. We all salute the same great American flag. And we are all made by the same Almighty God. We are the nation that dug out the Panama Canal, won 2 world wars, put a man on the moon, and brought communism to its knees. As long as we have the courage of our convictions and the strength to see them through, then there is no goal beyond our reach. As long as we are true to our values, loyal to our citizens, and faithful to our God, then we will not fail. This is your land. This is your home. And it's your voice that matters the most. So speak up, be heard, and fight, fight, fight for the change you've been waiting for your entire life, for the change that you already see happening. Our revolution didn't end on November 8th. That was just the beginning. The greatest adventure still lies ahead. Never give in, never give up, never back down, and never, ever stop dreaming. Because we are Americans, and the future belongs to us. The future belongs to all of you. So with American pride swelling in our hearts and American courage stirring in our souls, I say these words tonight. Together, we will indeed make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America safe again. And put it all together, and what do we have? We will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you, everybody.
Hero in tonight for Sean. President Trump there wrapping up his speech at a Make America Great Again rally in Pensacola, Florida. Joining us with a reaction are American Conservative Union Chairman Matt Schlapp, former Special Assistant to President Trump and former Press Secretary for Vice President Mike Pence, Mark Lotter, and Republican strategist Noel Nickport. All right, I got to tell you, every time I listen to the president speak and get those audiences fired up, I say to myself, there is no one better than the president, than Donald Trump with an audience. I mean, we were the cheering and the sense of Americanism it's infectious. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, it's electric. And I think, Donald Trump is doing something very important that presidents sometimes fail to do. He's getting out of the bubble. He's piercing the bubble. He's going out there and talking to real Americans. He's feeding off the crowd. It's electric. And I think it really gives him energy. Important for a leader to go around the country and tell him what he wants to do. And my gosh, he didn't leave anything on the table, Judge.
Well, and it's clear, Mark, that Matt is correct. He hit every note, whether it was the, sanctuary cities, the Second Amendment, religious freedom, Buy American. What's your take from this speech?
Two things. One, he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do on the campaign trail. And two, every time you see the fake news about how he's not having a good time in the White House, trust me, this man loves being president of the United States and taking it in the direction to make America great again. And you saw it tonight.
Oh, without a doubt. And Noel, what do you take away from tonight?
You know what, Judge Janine? America needed this tonight. America needed this speech. I was about to jump through the camera when I was listening to this. I was so proud to be an American. Yeah. And he puts America first. And we needed this right now with all the division between the parties, between the GOP. And then another thing is, he just listed why he is the champion. He's the mascot for the middle class, for the working American. I mean, this is such passion, and he loves this. He's not reading off teleprompters. This is his heart. This is who he is, and this is why he ran for the presidency. And look at the markets that that are enjoying the ride of a good economy. We're back on track, and America felt it tonight.
And, and I'll go back to you, Matt. One of the things he talked about, which was, one of the more interesting points is when he talked about the fake news media. I thought he said, maybe with the drop in the 350 points when Brian Ross came out with that, some would say inaccurate or fake news, some might say a lie about Mike Flynn possibly testifying against the president. He said, you know what? They ought to sue ABC. That was a shocker. Do you think that was an ad lib, or you think that one was in the speech?
A class action lawsuit for their losses in their 401ks. I think what you see at the end there is he comes back to the themes that he ran on, and you hear the cadence of those familiar lines. But in the middle of it, Judge, it's all coming from Trump's heart. Yeah. It's spontaneous. It's what he feels. It's coming right out. And I do think he has a grievance with the media, Judge. He was not talking about you, by the way. Look, conservatives have been trying to prosecute this case against the left-wing, left-leaning media for decades after decades, for generations. And he comes in with this concept of fake news. And I think the American people really realize They don't want to hear it anymore.
And you know what? I mean, he opened everyone's eyes. Everyone in the beginning thought, Mark, maybe, this fake news, that's ridiculous. But I think people are understanding it really is fake news, that there is stuff that is inaccurate, that is outright lies. But, Mark, one of the things that he said that I wasn't aware of, the president said that black home ownership is the highest that it's ever been in the history of this country. You think anybody would give him credit for this? And did you even know this, Mark?
I did not know it until we heard him say it tonight. But when you look at the economic record of this president, it is so remarkable. We had the new numbers come out today. I mean, manufacturing, Obama was losing 1,000 jobs a month in his final year. This president's adding 16,000 manufacturing jobs a month. He said he was going to rebuild American manufacturing. He's doing it. So many of these things you're not going to hear unless the president gets out there and says it himself. And that's what you saw tonight on full display.
And finally, Noel, when he said something interesting, he talked about $7 trillion that we have spent in the Middle East. He said, we could rebuild the infrastructure of this country 3 times over. What do you think he was saying? I mean,
I think he was telling Americans, look how much waste is out there. Look at what we're doing. This is why a businessman, this is why under his leadership, we've had massive job creation. We have a rallying stock market. We have basically making America great again. I know that sounds oversimplifying things, but that's exactly his message, and that's what's happening. And anyone that says, oh, whatever, Donald Trump's not doing anything, look at the numbers. I mean, the economy's not lying. The fact that people have money in their pocket, it's not lying.
Well, and the prediction is much more. Anyway, I want to thank all 3 of you for joining us. And President Trump is vowing to push forward on his promise to build a wall on the southern border and restore order in our immigration system. Joining us now to debate these topics are GOPAC Chairman David Avella and immigration attorney Francisco Hernandez. All right, guys. David, I'll start with you. I mean, as it relates to the wall, the president made it real clear that this is still on the front burner for him.
He even made it more clear at this week's cabinet meeting, Judge, when on Kirstjen Nielsen, the new Homeland Security Secretary,
congratulations to her.
On her new first day on the job, someone in that cabinet meeting told me he repeatedly said to her, build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. He is very crystal clear on this, and when you think about that in the context of the upcoming budget battle, it is amazing to think that the Democrats are going to stop funding for veterans' homes, for crisis counseling centers, and many other important programs just so they can keep illegal immigrants here.
All right, and I suspect, Francisco, that you might have a different take, but what was your take?
Well, he's talking like the Democrats are in charge of Congress. Democrats are going to do this away with this funding. But look, if President Trump is right, the illegal immigration is down 70%, I guess problem solved. We don't need the wall. Let's get on to immigration reform. Come on, there's a lot of rhetoric, but he can't even get his Congress to authorize 1 brick for the wall.
But you know what? When you say problem solved, I mean, you can't help but, Francisco, look at the news and see some of the problems that are happening. The opioid epidemic and the drugs coming from the border. But there's still 30%. There's still a what?
Okay, by next year we'll be down to 0.
David, I'll let you take it.
By next year we'll be down to 0, I guess.
Well, let's make sure we are. Go ahead, David.
Guys, this issue on the border, and Judge, you have been down there. You know the challenges we face with people being able to bring harmful, particularly our enemies, bringing harmful things into our country. And this is more than
that we're not consuming.
This is just more than a personal security issue for Americans. This is an economic security. All you need is one of our enemies to bring a bomb across this border and blow up the Hoover Dam or blow up an electrical grid, and the economic damage could be catastrophic for this country.
They were here legally, and they stole a plane. They didn't walk across the border with a bomb. Come on, guys, let's get real about it. We're going to have to legalize 100,000 Mexicans to build a wall. Let's get going.
All right, Francisco, you want to get real? What about what the president said when he said Hispanic unemployment in this nation is at an all-time low? And I think he said something like Hispanics they said they weren't going to vote for me. Well, they want the wall, too. They want security.
Hispanic
unemployment was not at an all-time low with President Obama.
I get it. I get it, but that's, you
get
that's citizen Hispanics. I'm okay with that. I agree with him. There's nothing wrong, but it has nothing to do with immigration.
Oh, see, okay.
Nothing.
Do you want to give him credit for that?
I did, but it has nothing to do with immigration. He can't even get, we can't even get illegal immigration right now. They want to reform legal immigration. I mean, really, guys? And
yeah,
that's both
you know why he
sides,
wants to
Democrats
reform
and
legal
Republicans.
immigration? Because when you have a lottery system and people come in and kill us, it's a problem. David, 10 seconds. What's your
I'm with
last
you on
thought?
that. Yes, ma'am.
The president got elected in part because of his pledge to secure the border. Americans expect it, and the president is determined to deliver it.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen. And coming up, President Trump blasts obstructionist Democrats during his Make America Great Again rally in Florida. That and more as this special edition of Hannity continues. Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity. Joining me now with reaction to President Trump's rally is founder and executive director of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, former Clinton pollster and Fox News contributor Doug Schoen, and Fox News contributor DeRoy Murdoch. All right, gentlemen, one of the things that we didn't talk about in the last two segments was the president was talking about Hillary. And I'll start with you, Doug. I don't know why. Why do you think? Yeah. He said the system is rigged, and he said there are going to be changes. This is a sick system. What can the president do? I mean, we saw Christopher Wray testify yesterday in front of Congress, head of the FBI, and yet everybody's frustrated that people aren't handing over records. And what do you think is going to change?
Well, here's what we need. First, I think, and I've said on this show before, we do need a special prosecutor to look at her, to look at the Uranium One deal, and to look at the dossier.
Let me ask you a question. Do you get people who push back at you because you're a Democrat, you work with the Hiltons? With the Clintons?
I get more than pushback. We'll save that for another time. But the other thing that I think we've seen this week is we need a separate investigation of the FBI, because we have overly partisan, we have personal relations, we have documents changed. Janine, this is just rotten. Sorry.
All right, DeRoy, what did you take away from tonight's speech?
We have a man who's 71 years old, unbelievably energetic. He goes on for 90 minutes basically without notes. And I think the biggest thing here is the naysayers must be walking around their tails between their legs. This failed economist Paul Krugman said that if Donald Trump were elected, the economy would crash and never come back. We're at record highs, record lows with unemployment. All the good things are happening. And the naysayers who say it couldn't be done, I think, have been really disproved by this incredible president.
All right. And Charlie Kirk, I mean, what DeRoy says is so true. I mean, the president has incredible energy.
And incredible, yeah. Not low energy like another presidential candidate at all. I'll tell you, what was so amazing about this speech is it sounded like a campaign speech. And let me tell you why that's important. It's because he's doing what he said he was going to do. He's not changing his message. You know, typical politicians, they run on one set of ideas, they enter office, and they completely change. It sounded as if he was back on the campaign trail saying, we're going to build the wall. And look at all the progress I made with energy independence, with economic freedom, with restoring our American sovereignty and our international stance. I love seeing it was a speech America needed to hear.
Sorry, guys, short segments. We just cut in. But coming up, President Trump rips the fake news mainstream media to shreds. Stay with us.